Hey everyone, Austin here again with another Let's Play video. Today it is going to be Ghouls and Ghosts for the Sega Genesis. Now this is a game I actually previously did a Let's Play of probably back in 2013 or 2014, so it's been several years now since I did that. I've since gotten a new hardware setup for capturing, and so it's time to re-record it, as I've been doing with some of my older Let's Plays when I was still using my old composite capture device. But yeah, this is also kind of like killing two birds with one stone. I wanted to revisit this game anyway with the new capture setup, but for Patreon backers, this is actually arriving at the tail end of October, so this is actually the last horror-themed October video for you guys. For those of you guys watching straight on YouTube, the week after, so basically on Patreon it gets posted a week early, on YouTube it gets posted a week later. You guys sort of get like some bonus content, some bonus October content into November. So I hope you guys enjoy this, and I hope you guys have enjoyed all the Halloween videos and streams through the month of October. Or I should say horror themed, not necessarily Halloween, but I had fun doing them. It was a lot of work, a lot of time spent with the streams especially, but I hope you guys enjoyed it nonetheless. So before we kick things off here, as usual, I want to give a big shout out to my Patreon backers since I just mentioned them. Thank you guys for your continued support as usual. I hope you guys continue to enjoy getting the content early and ad-free and stuff like that. And if you're interested in supporting the channel through Patreon, links are in the description box as always. Also, we're going to flash by the super chatters from the Thursday and in October, Tuesday streams. So thank you guys for your patronage as well. So let's go ahead and just hit the start button and jump right into the game. You know, what's actually kind of interesting about this is that I'm actually using the original Sega Genesis 3-button controller. I always use the 6-button when I play Sega Genesis, but when I practiced this on Twitch a little while ago, I found like I was accidentally hitting buttons I didn't mean to, because the 6-button buttons are smaller than the ones on the big fat 3-button controller. So this will be interesting. I've actually started using this controller again recently, just to mix things up. For the last 20 years or so, I've always just used the 6-button controller because it is a really damn good controller. But it's nice mixing things up. So we're going to be playing this kind of like how it was back when it came out. There was no 6-button controller when this game originally released. This was a very early Genesis title. Also, we're going to leave diagonals on, which will make the controls a little bit easier. No diagonals is true to the arcade game. But if you want it a little less true to the arcade game, you can do diagonals okay. Professional mode is basically the normal mode in the game. Even though it's technically the harder mode of the game, it's still a far cry from the arcade version in terms of difficulty. So here's the map screen, just like in the other Ghosts and Goblins and Ghouls and Ghosts games. You can see what levels you're going to be going to. Ghouls and Ghosts, for those that have never seen it before, was originally an arcade game, and it was a sequel to the arcade Ghosts and Goblins. And really fantastic game. That's one of my favorites to go back to. I absolutely love the Ghosts and Goblins series and Ghouls and Ghosts series. They're all a part of the same series, you just got slightly different names depending on the version. But yeah, it's basically kind of like a run and gun, you know, with lots of platforming elements. You move from left to right or right to left or vice versa, and you shoot. In Ghosts and Goblins, it was always kind of neat because you weren't using guns. You were using, you know, like hand projectiles. You know, like you start off with this lance that goes all the way across the screen. You can shoot 2 of them at once. Maximum of 2 on screen at once. You'll get other objects as well, like the blue torch that hits the ground and goes across it. Ghouls and Ghosts actually incorporated some melee attacks as well. You can actually pick up a sword, which is not the most useful weapon in the game. It's very powerful, but if you really want to challenge yourself, go ahead and use the sword. I don't recommend it past a certain point though, because there's a boss later on in the game that's actually impossible to defeat with the sword, as far as I'm aware. I've never been able to do it, unfortunately. So, but one of the differences between Ghosts and Goblins and Ghouls and Ghosts is that Ghouls and Ghosts introduced this gold armor. So when you've got the gold armor, you can actually charge up. Not quite as useful in this game as it is in, say, the follow-up on Super Nintendo called Super Ghouls and Ghosts. Not the, you know, probably not the best name for a sequel, because it doesn't really imply it's a sequel, but it is a follow-up to this game. It is not a port of the original Ghouls and Ghosts arcade game. But it's Super Ghouls and Ghosts on Super Nintendo, which I actually also did a Let's Play of this past month. the gold armor is insanely useful. A little less useful in Genesis and arcade Ghouls and Ghosts, but still good to have nonetheless, because again, you can charge up your attacks. There are parts in the game where it is useful, especially later on in the second loop when you've got to use the goddess bracelet, and I'll explain the goddess bracelet once we sort of get to that. And let's see if we can... Oh, I still got hit by that. What? That's okay. I thought I was going to actually get him. So, you can actually skip through that map screen too, unlike the original Ghosts and Goblins. And one of the nice things about Genesis Ghouls and Ghosts, or Megadrive Ghouls and Ghosts, is that the checkpoints are much kinder to you. In the arcade game, I would have gotten shot all the way back to... I would have gotten shot all the way back to the beginning of that windy section, right after the huge guillotine. So, on the Genesis version, if you die at a boss, you'll just respawn at the boss fight, which is quite nice. So, you know, if you found the arcade version of this game too difficult, if you're one of those ones that actually played it, and the arcade version is very difficult, don't get me wrong, it is quite challenging. This is a great version to play, actually, because of how much easier it is. It is still a challenge, like, don't get me wrong, it's still a tough game, but it's... You could use it as like training wheels for the arcade game, basically. It's considerably easier to get through. Still a very good challenge, but it's a good starting point if you're not terribly familiar with the arcade version of this game. So these bridges will actually break apart, and it's good to know exactly, you know, the right spots where they'll break apart. There is like a sandworm kind of guy, sand bug kind of thing down below. And touching him will kill you. Alright, so here we're gonna see the introduction of the red armor. This is probably the most infamous enemy in the entire series. And that was actually bad. I'm gonna try to use my charge attack. Like so. There we go, got him. That's where the charge attack on the gold armor can be very, very handy. Depending on the weapon that you have. The charge attack depends on the weapon that you have. So with the lance, you've got, you know, the lightning attack that comes out, which is very nice. It basically comes down from the top and then does damage, like so, and then it, you know, it spreads out to the left and right hand side, which is awesome. So let's see if we could use it right here. Yeah, there was... Oh, wait, no, I'm actually might be thinking of a different... No, that was the right part. Yeah, there was a plant there. It was actually off screen. You couldn't see it, but I ended up killing it. And there's the sword. I really don't want that, and I'm going to do all I can to not get it. That was also an axe that dropped. The axe is probably the second most useless weapon in the game. Second least useful weapon in the game, I should say. And this is the boss fight. He basically goes over top, back and forth, and you just want to duck his second pattern here. Oh, we're going to take... Oh, we didn't take a hit. I got lucky on that. Now, what would be nice is if we picked up the dagger, because the dagger is about the same strength as the lance, but you can actually throw 3 projectiles on screen at once. So you can have 3 projectiles on screen at once. So we're actually about halfway through this first loop. I think there's only 5 stages in the game, so it isn't as long as some of the other games in the series, even with the second loop taken into consideration. For those of you guys wondering what I mean by that, the Ghosts and Goblins series is notorious for making you play through it twice. So in this one, basically, you go through the game, you're filled in that there's this weapon that you need in order to defeat, you know, the final boss in the game or whatever, and you missed it along the way or something like that, and so it's basically an excuse to send you all the way back to the beginning and make you play the game again. And it actually looks like, I hope I don't hit these, because I really don't want these. I'd rather keep the dagger if at all possible. Okay, good. Alright, so we're gonna book it over here. Now, my favorite charge attack is actually with the dagger, because it basically pulls out a mirror image of yourself, and it just mimics whatever you do on screen. It lags behind you, so if you know, if you think about it a little bit, you can actually sort of like line it up to hit enemies at certain times, you know, just by using your own movements, if that makes any sense. That probably doesn't make any sense, actually, but I tried. So I'm just going to play it safe here. There's some treasure chests, and something I haven't really explained yet is that treasure chests appear... We're dead. Treasure chests appear at certain moments. Sometimes you can just walk past a certain part of the floor and a chest will appear. That will trigger it. Other points, you have to jump. Like right here, I can jump and it'll make this chest appear. The first chest is always going to be a magician. The magician can shoot a projectile out at you that will have negative effects. I don't think there's really any positive effect to the magician in this game. The second chest will a lot of times be gold armor, as long as you haven't taken a hit. If you've taken a hit between the first chest and the second, the order gets mixed up. You might get a weapon, and then maybe... Ooh, that was weird. I pressed right, but it didn't register. This controller I'm using, I've noticed, is not... it's not responding properly. I think I need to go in and clean the contacts of this controller. I think I might have another 3-button controller as well, and I should probably fire that up, but that's actually not the first time. There's probably been a couple times where you notice I just jumped straight up for no reason, and that was because the controller wasn't responding. So I probably should have tested that before doing this Let's Play, but I mean, this is by no means an expert run or anything like that. If you're looking for a speed run or something, there's a bunch of really good people out there on YouTube and Twitch specifically that run this game. You know, the arcade version specifically. They'll run the console versions too. But I don't think dying here and there, because of failed controls is really an issue. As long as I'm not spending the entire playthrough just dying endlessly, like relentlessly, that wouldn't be very fun to watch, in my opinion. I don't really like watching playthroughs where, people are just dying left and right because you could tell they're not very knowledgeable with the game. They're not very experienced. I'm pretty experienced with this game, so I'm totally blaming the controls on this one. I think there's a chest over here, actually. Yeah. And that's actually, funny enough, it's a chest I had no idea even existed, and I'm not going to even bother picking it up, because I've already got the build I want. I basically have the gold armor, and I have the dagger. And if I really wanted to, I could pull out this second Arthur here. You gotta watch out for these wormy-looking dudes that come out. And what I'm gonna do is try to take the bottom path here. I find it easier than the top path. The top path, you can't jump at all, so you have a little less flexibility on getting through this section. And I'm gonna take this part nice and easy, just like so. And you'll notice that when you're using the dagger, you can actually... fire the shots back to back pretty rapidly, which is nice. There's a bunch of other chests here, like if you jump up here, this one will appear. We don't really need it. Oops. Oh, lucky. That's actually a technique the speedrunners use. They'll intentionally get hit at parts of this level, and that was actually failed controls again. You notice how I just jumped straight up? I was actually trying to press right. Arthur ended up ducking and then jumping straight up. So that was unintentional. This is probably a magician. Oh, silver armor. Lucky me. That's good. And there's going to be another chest down here. Like so. But I'm not going to go for it because I don't think it's gold armor. Yeah. I figured it was going to be the magician. So you don't really want to focus too much on these guys on the sides. You just want to focus on these platforms because they fall down. And if you don't deal with it in time... Wow, that hitbox, that was pretty awful. That didn't even touch me. Oh well, I'll just deal with it. Because we're at the boss fight now, I'm not too worried because, again, the boss fights in this game, if you die at them, you start back at the boss, which is nice. So we don't have to go through that whole level again, or the second half of the level. So you gotta watch out for these worms that come out, just like so, and you gotta kill like these little heart-like weak points. And you just want to take your time. Ooh, I got lucky there. With some of the bad hitboxes witnessed earlier, I figured that would have actually killed me, but I got super lucky there. Alright, good fight. First try. First try to me is a good fight. And this is our last level. Not exactly our last level, because, again, this game loops, and so we have to go through the game a second time, but there's a twist on the second time. You get the goddess bracelet, and I actually messed that up There's a trick to the red armors in this game. There's a very specific pattern. For one, if they're on the ground like that, if you do sort of like a tapered shot where it's up to down like that, they'll fly up and run into at least one of your projectiles if you time it just right. So, like that right there. And then you can pop them up just like that. So that was better. Although this is going to be tough without armor because there's going to be a second red armor up here. Let's see if we can just trigger one. Lucky. Very nice. And that's what I'm talking about. Just like that. And there's going to be some armor up here, or some more chests, so we should be able to get our armor back if we don't get hit by something here. There might even be a chest here somewhere. Let's see. Oh! I was not expecting him to just fly out like that. But that's alright. So we're gonna have to do that all over again. We were actually really close to the checkpoint there. But if I can do this without taking damage, then I can get the gold armor at the very least. Bam. Ooh. Okay, lucky. Just like that. Now we get some gold armor. I'm gonna go ahead and just trigger this guy again. We're going to use the charge up here as well, because there's going to be another one of these pig guys down here. And this is our checkpoint. And we're going to try to just go up here and not get hit, preferably. And we're going to use this again up here, just like so. And we're going to charge up again, which makes life a lot easier in this part. So this is like a mini boss section. We basically fight the bosses that we encountered again, but in slightly altered forms. Like these smaller clouds. Now, all I really care about doing right now is, for one, not picking up that axe. But two, just getting to the boss fight. That way we can, we get the checkpoint. And I must be thinking of a different game. I always thought there was a chest here. Yeah, I must be thinking of, oh, no, there's one. Okay. There we go. Good. We've got some armor. That's good. So this guy is another one of these guys. You want to just pick it off from a distance. And again, not pick up any crappy weapons that drop. I actually, one of the first live stream archives I ever did on YouTube here, you know, speaking of, like, you know, uploading a Twitch archive, was, doing a flame-only run, blue flame-only run of Ghouls and Ghosts in the Genesis, and I thought that was kind of fun. So if any of you guys want to see that, I can link to that archive. I currently have, I think, most of those archives unlisted on YouTube, so you won't be able to find it on my channel, but it is still there, and I can link it to people that want to actually see it. And I knew I was going to get killed by that. This guy has a very inconsistent pattern. I find him to be the toughest boss in the game because of that. But in the Genesis version, I don't really worry about it as much because, you know, we just start right here. I just basically tank my way through this part. And if any of you guys know of a discernible pattern let me know. Like that right there. I didn't know he was gonna just go up like that. Sometimes he just goes all the way across, he goes off screen, and you can't really tell when he's gonna stop, when he's gonna keep going, etc., etc. So... and so this is going to take us probably a little while. We'll see. It's a lot easier in the second time around because you've got the goddess bracelet, and as long as you've got the gold armor, the goddess bracelet will eat projectiles. So that's always nice. I mean, that's one thing I could do is try to just bait him like so. Let's keep going. Thank you. This is good. This is, you know, some good patterns here. And if I was able to mash faster with his controller, I would have killed him faster as well. So this is basically where they tell us that we need the goddess bracelet. We have to go back to the beginning and basically go through the game again. Now, the second playthrough, in my opinion, isn't as tough as the first playthrough because I think the goddess bracelet is really awesome in this game. It's very, very powerful, and it's very useful, unlike the one in the Super Nintendo version, or the Super Nintendo follow-up, where you have to do the same thing, but the goddess bracelet is much less useful. So even with your stock, you know, silver armor here, the goddess bracelet is still very handy in this game. Because it'll cut through multiple enemies with one attack. It's insanely powerful up close, but still does decent moderate damage at a long range. Unlike the Super Nintendo version, where at long range, the goddess bracelet is pretty much useless. So basically what happens here now, as long as you got gold armor, the next chest will be the goddess bracelet, and it's going to drop, and we can go ahead and pick it up, just like so. And I'm just going to take the bottom route this time. Now, the difficulty, I think, is actually a tiny bit harder than it was before. And I was just getting super sloppy there. I took a hit. Oh, that was our first game over, too. Was it? Wait. No. Pretty sure I got a game over the previous boss. Maybe I'm misremembering. I probably am. My short-term memory has been utter crap these days. I think I just played too many damn video games. And that's why. I'll blame the video games anyway. It's all your fault, people! All you guys watching! You're the reason for my crappy short-term memory now. I'm just kidding. Alright, so here you can see how the goddess bracelet just goes all the way across the screen like so. You'll notice how it gets smaller at a distance. So it's a little bit weaker at the end, but it is still powerful. Unlike the one in Super Ghouls and Ghosts. But if you use it up close, it just tears through enemies, and you'll see how we just wreck bosses in this game. And you'll also notice how it kind of cut through two of those birds at once. Now, one strategy some people use is they'll just try to pick up their preferred weapon again. So maybe they'll use the discus, or maybe they'll use the dagger again. They'll just go through the game a second time with those normal weapons. Myself, my preferred weapon on the second loop is the goddess bracelet, because it cuts through projectiles. Not only is it really powerful, but it'll cut through projectiles just like that, see? And I think that's insanely useful in this game, where projectiles become pretty dense later on in the game, especially on stage 3 in particular. That first vertical section has a lot of projectiles on it. But look at that, look how fast we killed that guy. Huh, where was the other one? That was weird. There's supposed to be another pig guy. Oh well. See, look at that. You can eat his projectiles. Now, you have to have the gold armor to be able to eradicate projectiles. It won't work with the silver armor. But still, even with the silver armor, it is a very powerful weapon when you're up close, especially. So bam, one hit. That would have taken 2 hits with the lance or the dagger or the knife. And we died. I should have walked backwards, so I thought I could squeeze through that. And again, I thought I could do the same damn thing there, but my fault. Let's just get to the checkpoint. See, this level is actually the worst when you spend more time on it. Like, the beginning is the worst when you spend more time on it. Because it feels like more of these guys come out. Like, the longer you stick around like this. We might end up having to get that flame. I don't want it, but it could be kind of hard to jump through here. Ooh, lucky. Alright, let's take this part slow. We don't need to take it fast. We got 2 minutes on the clock. Oh, there's the guy I was talking about earlier. So the end of that bridge will make you fall directly into the pit. You obviously don't want to do that. Another magician. Alright, let's just take this slow, get to the checkpoint. That's all I want. Let's see if the red armor comes all the way down, too. Good, we got him. Alright, checkpoint. We're good. I wasn't expecting to get hit by that, but okay. So there's a chest over here. This jump is extremely tight. But it is good to know, and it's good to get if you want to get your gold armor early. Like, right here, perhaps. Alright, good stuff. That could be a really tough part, too, with those fire bats coming out. I think we should be able to kill this guy pretty quickly. Let's see. Much faster than last time. That was about twice as fast. So you can really see how the Goddess Bracelet can really do some damage in this game. And it really helps on this part, too, because you've got all these little bats that, little gargoyle demons, or whatever you want to call them. They have an actual name, I just don't remember. That, drop these, I guess, maybe stone balls down or something like that. And, the powered up Goddess Bracelet with the gold armor will cut right through them. So instead of falling on your head, you just slice and dice right through them. Unfortunately, this does not go through walls. And, unfortunately, really no weapon goes through walls in this game, as far as I'm aware. In Ghosts and Goblins, weapons will go through walls, which is kind of nice. Alright, so this will be interesting. I think this is probably one of the tougher parts with the Goddess Bracelet. We'll see what happens. And I'm just gonna leave that chest closed, because it's gonna be... Actually, no, I'm gonna open it up. Why not? Oop, that was mistimed. That was my fault. Alright, this is gonna be really tough now without the gold armor. This will probably be another magician. Yep, just like so. There's gonna be another chest here to the right. And that's the discus. I don't want that. We're gonna fall just straight down like that. You'll notice that when you fall off ledges in this game, you fall like a tank. You fall straight down, very much like the original Castlevania. Okay, silver armor, that's what I wanted. And actually, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just jump straight up because the controller didn't respond. It's the right button specifically. I was holding right, press jump, it just jumped straight up. So Yeah, bad controller. Yeah, so what I was going to do is pick up that that dagger, because that would have made this boss fight easier. But now since I've died, I've got the gold armor again. I'm not too worried about it. So that part right there, you'll notice I'm ducking. You absolutely have to duck, otherwise you'll get hit by that floating platform. Some of these rocks in the air are a little misleading. Like this one, you don't have to duck under. So it's trial and error, unfortunately. That's what this series is like. There's a lot of trial and error in this series if you're new to them. But these are things you learn as you play through them. See, look at how fast I cut through that guy. That was awesome. And we've got this level and the last level, and then we're gonna have the final boss fight, which is probably gonna take all of 2 seconds to get through. So we'll see how this level goes. But we are already getting close to the end of this Let's Play, surprisingly. We're about 30 minutes in. And we're already there. That's actually kind of one of the nice things about the original Ghouls and Ghosts, is that it's fairly short. I mean, technically Ghosts and Goblins was as well, but I found Ghosts and Goblins a lot more challenging in a frustrating kind of way. Ghosts and Goblins is a classic, it's a favorite of mine, but it's also admittedly one of those games that probably hasn't aged the best. You know, it's not as interesting to look at. You know, Ghouls and Ghosts in the arcade was the first game that ran on Capcom's CPS-1 hardware, which their CPS-1 hardware is what powered a lot of, you know, all-time classics like Street Fighter 2 and Final Fight and stuff like that. And Ghouls and Ghosts was the first game on that platform, and the whole thing about that is that that generation of arcade gaming really gave us interesting looking games. The environments were cool to look at, and even the Genesis version here, while it doesn't capture everything that the arcade version has, like you notice that there's just a black background here. That's all drawn in the arcade version. There's a lot of interesting things to look at. There's still interesting things to look at in the Genesis version, though, and so it's just it's as you go through the game, not only are you enjoying the game, and yeah, it can be tough, but there's also a lot of interesting environments you find yourself going through. And that's one of the great things about this era of arcade gaming. That beefed up new arcade hardware at the time really brought to the table. It brought, you know, really distinct visuals and true art in a way. I mean, look at how just insane this guy looks. And this is the Genesis version, you know? There's even more detail in the arcade one, which is fantastic. Kind of creepy stuff. Really great for October as well when I'm recording this. I love playing these games, especially in October. I mean, I revisit them frequently. The Ghosts and Goblins and Ghouls and Ghosts series, these are games I play all throughout the year. They're not the kinds of games where I deliberately save them for October. This is one of my favorite gaming series. So I still play it, much like Castlevania. I revisit it over the years. I don't just play it in October, but it is even greater when you're playing it in October. I will give it that. Yeah, so much to look at in this game, even on the Genesis version. It's really good stuff. Yeah, so these guys are even easier with the Goddess Bracelet, as long as you can hit them. Because, again, the Goddess Bracelet does so much more damage. And we're going to try to do this a little bit differently. Just like so. Now, we absolutely have to have the Goddess Bracelet here for this boss fight. If we don't, we have to go through the whole level over again. Not the whole game, fortunately, but the whole level, absolutely. Alright, let's get up here. So even though you might pick a normal weapon to get you through the game if you're not good with the Goddess Bracelet, you have to make sure at the very end that you're powered up enough to be able to get the gold armor and then at least one more chest in order to get this weapon here. Bam! Look at how fast you take these guys out. That's why this weapon is so good. Oops! I didn't mean to get hit. Crap. This is gonna make life harder, unnecessarily. because the Goddess Bracelet will not destroy projectiles unless you've got the gold armor. Let's go ahead and hit this, though. If I really wanted to, I could go back down to the bottom, because I don't think I completely activated that treasure chest. But still, I might be able to kill this guy pretty quickly. Because again, when you're up close, it does some serious damage. That was expected. The patterns of these guys are a little tricky to follow as well and predict. That should be gold armor, yep. Alright, good stuff. You gotta watch out here. Sometimes these guys, yeah, that guy a lot of times will drop an item. You notice there's another chest there as well. So it's like the game is trying to troll you. Come on, dude. Please go away. Thank you. Okay, good. It wasn't a weapon. Usually it's a weapon. He likes to drop weapons. And it's quite annoying. Alright, so we're gonna lose our... Ooh, we didn't lose our gold armor. That was amazing. I felt like I should have been able to kill him on the first cycle, but that didn't happen. So this is Loki, this is the final boss. So if you got the gold armor, you can just sit down in the middle, like so. If you don't have the gold armor, sometimes it's best to try to jump on his foot as it rises up and then jump up to his head. He'll actually point his lasers diagonally at you if you're in the middle. And as you saw, he can also shoot one from his mouth. But also, as you saw, with the Goddess Bracelet, he is just a cakewalk. I'm actually surprised they didn't give him more hit points. It's almost like they designed him to have the normal set of hit points with normal weapons and didn't take into account the Goddess Bracelet. But there you have it. That is Ghouls and Ghosts for the Sega Genesis or Sega Megadrive, depending on what region you guys are in. So... really great game. Even the Genesis version is a lot of fun to play. Sometimes I actually prefer playing this one just because it's easier than the arcade one. The arcade one is my favorite, but it's very, very difficult, and if I'm not well practiced, I get wrecked in that game. But this is a little bit easier. Like, I wasn't even really practiced on this version. I played it once last week. Normally when I do these Let's Plays, I try to do another run or two in between. But I didn't do that for this. I just jumped right in and just went right for it. And as you guys saw, I made a lot of mistakes. I got some game overs, but you know, even with that, it doesn't really stop the flow of the game that much because of the more lenient checkpoints in this version. And that just kind of makes it easier to get into. You know, if you're having a day where you want to play the Ghouls and Ghosts games, but you also don't want to bang your head against a brick wall, this is a great version to play. Probably the best version to play, actually, if that's the reason, like, you're playing a specific version of the game. But if you want the arcade faithfulness, there are better versions, like on the Super Graphics. You can get the arcade version on a variety of compilations, like the Capcom Classics collections, which are on Xbox, PlayStation 2, as well as the PlayStation Portable. And, yeah, and if you're an import gamer, you can get them on PS1, you can get them on Saturn, things like that. But this is, in my opinion, this is the easiest version to just stroll through, and for that, I think it's great. And some of the parts still look really good too. Like, this part looks great. You'll notice there's actually a background in this section. You know, on a lot of parts of this game, there's just like a black background. Like right here as well, you've got that scrolling in the back, which is nice. It's nice they brought that here. It still looks way better in the arcade version, but it still looks respectable here. Particularly for such an early Genesis title. Would have been really amazing if they did this years after the Genesis was already out. Because cart sizes had increased by that point. You know, there was room for more assets. This is actually a very, very small ROM, and so that's one reason why you'll find that the assets don't look nearly as good as the arcade game. There just wasn't the space. But you know, for such an early game, it still plays great. It still looks good, and it's an all-time classic. Ghouls and Ghosts is an awesome game, regardless of how you cut it or what system you played on, unless it's the Master System one. Yeah, I had to throw that out there. But yeah, Genesis version is a ton of fun to go back to, and if you guys haven't played it, I highly recommend checking it out. And I also highly recommend checking out the arcade game if you haven't played that before either. Lots of different ways you can play that one nowadays as well on consoles. And, so yeah, again guys, I hope you guys enjoyed the Let's Plays in October. I hope you guys enjoyed the live streams in October. If you missed any of them, just hit my videos tab on my main channel page, and you'll be sent to, you know, the last couple months worth of video uploads, and, you know, you'll see all of the October streams and whatnot in there. We did Super Ghouls and Ghosts on the Super Nintendo. That was a great run. So if you're interested in seeing what that's like, definitely check out that Let's Play. I did a bunch of Castlevania videos, like Castlevania Chronicles and Super Castlevania 4. And I also did, speaking of Master System, I did Vampire Master of Darkness, which is a Castlevania clone, basically. And in the beginning of the month, I also did Shadowgate for the NES. So that's a cool horror-themed content, not counting the 8 or 10 live streams I did, so feel free to check those out as well. But yeah, that's pretty much going to do it for me, guys. Again, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching, and until the next video, I will... What do I normally say? Oh yeah, that's right. Take it easy.